Another month has come and gone, but that just means we're one step closer to fall. So a win's a win. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Liz, and in today's video we are going to be doing my August reading wrap up. We're going to talk about the, I think, 11 books that I read this month and some of my thoughts and feelings. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The first book that I read this month was actually in a reading vlog video that I did for Summerween, and that is Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is the first book I'm reading by Grady Hendrix, and I really thoroughly enjoyed this book. I ended up rating 3.5 stars. This story follows our main character, who is an employee at basically an IKEA. And at this store, there has been some weird things happening at night. So the employees will come in and like the employee scanner thing is broken the next morning, or there's strange substances and smells on the furniture scattered throughout the store. Her manager comes to her one day and asks her to stay for the night shift, her and another employee. And they are basically going to just walk around the store every hour on the hour just to see what is going on, if there is anything going on. And of course she agrees to it because she does not like her manager and she is trying to get transferred to a different branch. So she's just trying to keep him happy. This story I found so enjoyable and immersive because, first of all, just like the layout and the way that this book was built, it looks like an IKEA catalog. Like everything about it. On the front, it shows some different furniture pieces and it tells you the price and what page they're on. And if you actually flip through and find whatever chapter it is, it will show you that piece of furniture as the little chapter header, which I thought was really fun. And just like the inside has just different details. Like it looks like a catalog, and I really enjoyed that about this book. I feel like it really made me appreciate this story and the way it was created. It definitely takes you through like a paranormal route with this book, but you go on this wild ride, and honestly I just found it funny. And this is a new type of subgenre of horror that surprised me, that I enjoyed so much. Like I said, 3.5 stars. I think this is just a really fun book, especially if you're new to horror and you're trying to get into it. This is a fun way to slowly dip your toe into that genre. The next book I read was also in that same reading vlog, and that is Murderland by Carlin Greenwald. This story follows a teenager who she works at this amusement park, and it is opening night of this brand new attraction, and her friends decide to go on it and claim that it's broken. And while this happens, the janitor also gets on to the ride with them and basically says like, I won't tell if you don't. And when they get off, the janitor is dead, and it looks like it's a heart attack, but then it slowly starts to look like this was done on purpose. Is there a killer on the loose? What's going on in this amusement park? It quickly turns into an investigation. These teens take it upon themselves to try to figure out what's going on, who this killer is, and there slowly starts to become a body count. I thought that this was a really fun book, especially for summertime. Like if you're wanting a summer camp style thriller, I think that this was done really well. I gave it 3.5 stars. I think it gave me all of the vibes that I was looking for Summerween. So if you're interested in that, definitely check this book out. The next book I read was for my book club that I am currently in, and that is The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. This is the author of The Spell Shop. No, I have not read The Spell Shop yet, but after reading this book, I might give it a try one of these years. I'm not sure. This is a cozy fantasy set in this world where magic is only done by specific people. If you've gone to school and become a sorcerer, you are legally allowed to do magic. Our main character, however, she's a librarian and she uses magic illegally, and as a punishment, she gets turned into a statue. A few years later, she wakes up and she's on this island that is filled with these enchanted greenhouses, and she doesn't know how she got there or what she's supposed to be doing here. And she runs into the caretaker of this island, and they slowly start to develop this like friendship and community amongst themselves, along with all of these enchanted plants that are slowly coming to life on this island. I thought it was really fun. It was really sweet. It definitely was predictable, and like with every cozy fantasy, it's not necessarily going to be very high stakes. So if you're looking for that, I definitely would stay away. But if you're wanting some like cozy fall vibes, I think that this was done really well for that. I ended up giving it 3.25 stars. I definitely think that in the future, I would love to try out The Spell Shop after reading this. Even though cozy isn't necessarily my comfort zone, I am willing to give it a shot after reading this. And I thought her writing was very beautiful. The next book I read, I actually buddy read this with my coworker, and that is Coldwire by Chloe Gong. This is her new book that comes out, I think, this upcoming November. Guys, the feelings that I felt while I was reading this book, I devoured this within within like 2 days. I flew through this book. I loved it so much. It's cyberpunk mixed with fantasy and YA, and it's just everything that I could want in a book and more. I also love Chloe Gong's other books as well. She does a great job taking like Shakespearean plays and turning them into a fantasy. So I was very excited to read this one because this is very different for her. She has not written a cyberpunk book before, so I was really excited to pick this up. This book is set in a futuristic world where everything is now virtual reality. There is upcountry and then there's downcountry. Downcountry is where people live with their physical bodies, and then upcountry is whenever they go into the cyber world, the virtual reality. I just thought it was really interesting because it feels very plausible. It feels like this could become a reality in our future, especially with the way technology is going. You're following two different girls. One is in her final year of school. She's about to graduate, and in order for students to graduate, they have to go on this final mission where they are sent into upcountry and they have to do a certain task. And depending on how they accomplish this task, that is what gives them like their final grade for the year, and then also determines where they then go after graduation. She is like the top of her class. She is like valedictorian, and she's neck and neck with the headmaster's son, and so they both are sent on a mission together. The other girl in the story, she is already graduated and she's already doing missions and that are like life and death. She ends up getting framed for the murder of a very important political figure. These rebels take her hostage and take her on this journey to complete a specific task. If she completes this specific task, then they will release her, as well as the evidence that will prove her innocence. It's very interesting getting the two parallels and getting both of their stories. I loved this book. Me and my coworker were theorizing the entire time while we were reading it, and we did guess a lot of the things that happened, but it never took away from the story. I know sometimes if you can guess the ending, it kind of ruins it, and I've heard some other reviews from people saying that if they guessed the ending and it ruined the story for them. I just enjoyed it. It was just a fun ride and I loved it so much. I don't think most people would have guessed it because it is such an out there theory, but it was just done so well. I'm so excited for the second book. I saw that she sent in her final revisions for book 2 and I cannot wait. I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. Once again, loved this so much and everyone should read it. The next book I read, I actually don't have the physical copy because I gave it to someone else to read, but that is Miss Winter in the Library with a Knife. This is just a murder mystery story, basically. If you've ever played or watched Clue, it's essentially that. These group of people, I think it's like 5 individuals, are invited to this estate, and it's like set in this very private rural countryside, and they are brought here so that way they can perform this murder mystery. Whoever wins will be able to become an investor in this whole estate. Each of these characters has nothing to lose, so they are all very cutthroat and trying to win. And while this is all happening, an actual murder mystery starts happening. One of the guests ends up dead, and then it turns into 2 different mysteries that they're trying to solve at the same time. This was a very immersive story. I feel like the chapters were very quick and fast-paced. There's maps, there's clues and things and riddles that are all thrown in this book. So the entire time while the characters were trying to solve it, I also was trying to solve it. So I thought that was really fun. This book does come out, I believe, in either late October or November, whatever the date is. I'll put it on the screen. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I wasn't necessarily in the mood for like a cozy mystery murder party thing when I read this book, but I still enjoyed my time while I was reading it. So I definitely would recommend it to people. I also think that this would be a great book for the winter time because it is set during the winter. It's like around Christmas when this whole thing is happening. So definitely would recommend it for this upcoming winter season. The next book I read was The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. This is their newest book that came out last year, I believe. And I remember it had amazing reviews. Everyone I saw review this book absolutely loved it and loved the main character, and I 100% agree. The story is following 2 individuals who got married in, I think, college, just so that way they could have cheaper housing or something like that. It wasn't like a legit marriage. It's many years later. They have not spoken in these years. Like, they went their separate ways after they got what they needed out of the marriage. Never technically got divorced. The guy in this relationship, his family, they are basically billionaires. They own like this huge grocery chain, and they believe that he's still married and then this marriage was real. He has to bring our female main character with him to his sister's wedding at this remote island. They have to keep up appearances that they're still married because he has an inheritance that he is trying to get. If he stays married for 5 years, then he gets his inheritance. So he brings her along with him. She is this artist. She's very free-spirited. She's nothing like his family. His family is very uptight and privileged, and I just found it so enjoyable. I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. I loved this book. I think this might be my favorite book by Christina Lauren at the moment, and I've read a lot of their books. Our main character, she was just such a joy to read about. I loved her personality. She was everything I could want in a female main character, and I feel like she just stood up for herself. And like in all those awkward family situations, she would make a comment and it would just be like she was the comedic relief, and it was just so fun to read about. Next, I read The Summers Between Us by Noreen Nanja. This was another book that was on my summer TBR. That's what most of these books are summer TBR books that I was trying to fly through so I could get to my fall TBR. The story follows Leah and Wes. Leah's family comes to this summer lake house every summer, and Wes is their neighbor. The first time they meet, they quickly become friends, and then each summer, I think you go through 5 summers with them. Each summer they get progressively more and more involved with each other. They start to develop a young love with each other. Things slowly go wrong. It's like 10 years in the future after all of this happened, these 5 summers. She is brought back to their summer lake house for a specific reason, and he's there, and they kind of start to rehash what went wrong in the relationship. I thought this was fun. It definitely reminded me of Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, if you've read that book, with the past and present timeline, second chance love, all of that. I wouldn't necessarily say that this was anything groundbreaking. Like, there was nothing crazy about this book that made me fall in love with it. More so, like, I kind of had indifferent feelings about the story. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I think if you like second chance romance, you probably would really enjoy this book. It's not my favorite trope, so that's why I feel like I was kind of indifferent with my feelings, but I would still recommend it as a good summer read. The next book I read was Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is a continuation of her Chestnut Springs series. At this point, since I finished this, I have 1 more book in her series, and I think it's hopeless, and I'm so excited for that book. I loved Reckless. I think this is my favorite in the series so far. This is following Summer's sister Winter, so Summer, who's the first main character in the series, her older sister Winter, and Theo, which is a young bull rider. I feel like I can't say too much about this story just because of spoiler reasons, but Winter is trying to start over in Chestnut Springs, and she meets Theo, and things happen, and they slowly develop this connection. I don't want to say too much because it's not technically on the back of the book, even though it happens so quickly in this book, like within the first 2 chapters maybe, you find out this huge thing, and I don't know why it's not on the back of the book. I really enjoyed their chemistry. I felt like Theo just stood up and he became a man in this book. He went after what he wanted, and he really showed through his actions how much he cared about Winter and their relationship, and I really loved that. I loved seeing him step up and actually be a man. He's always been known as the playboy, so getting to see him kind of change that perspective and how people thought of him, I thought was really fun and enjoyable, and I also loved seeing Winter's development in this book as well. 4.5 stars, favorite in the series. I'm really excited to continue with Hopeless next. The next book I read was The Book Swap by Tessa Bickers, another book on my summer TBR. This story follows our main character who ends up donating a good chunk of her books to this local like little free library, and she accidentally donates this very special edition of To Kill a Mockingbird that she fell in love with as a child. She did all these annotations in it and wrote in the margins, and there's also this sentimental postcard from her best friend who passed away tucked into this book. So she's very upset when she realizes that she did this and goes back and it's gone. Well, a few weeks later it turns back up, and someone wrote back in the margins and has started up this connection and this communication with her. So this turns into a whole book swapping scenario where they just go through and pick out a new book, they each read it and write in the margins, and they kind of form their own little book club, which I found really enjoyable. You're getting dual POVs, so you get to see both characters who are involved in this book swap, which I really enjoyed. I love it whenever it involves 2 characters who are like anonymously writing back and forth. Something about that just scratches an itch in my brain, and I love it so much. I expected to like this book more than I did. I only gave this 3 stars, mainly because I feel like some of the things happening with our main character, she had a lot of issues that she had to work through and a lot of growing up that she needed to do as well. I felt like she was holding these grudges from such a long time ago that I just didn't think were necessary anymore. So I didn't necessarily love our female main character. I really enjoyed our male main character in this book. I loved his chapters and getting to see what was going on in his world, but I did not like our female main character until closer to the end. So that is part of the reason why it only got 3 stars. The next book I read was My Friends by Frederick Bachman. This is his newest release, and I loved this book. Ever since I read Beartown, there's something about his writing that always just hits the spot for me, but I always have to wait until I am in the mood for one of his books, because anytime I read his books, I fall in love with those characters, and I just don't want to ruin it by reading it during a slump. So I waited pretty much the entire summer to finally read this book because I wanted to make sure the timing was right, and I'm so glad I did that. I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. You are following our main character, Louisa, who ends up starting off, she's an orphan. She ran away from her foster family. She ends up at this art auction for this really famous painting, and she shows up, and this is like one of her all-time favorite paintings. She kind of crashes this auction just so she can go see it in person. Security thinks she's trying to vandalize, and she runs runs into this homeless man. It turns into this whole journey of her trying to figure out like where she belongs. I really loved her relationship with the homeless man, and she also meets another character named Ted, and I loved their relationship as well. Both of these men are in like, I want to say like their 40s, and I just thought she was such a breath of fresh air. She was only, I think, 17 or 18 years old, but you're also getting flashbacks to the past, to the characters that are painted into this famous painting. So you're getting these young boys and their story, and you're getting to learn about the artist behind the painting and everything that comes with it. I don't want to say much more than that because I feel like that's all you really need to know. It's a story of friendship and just finding where you belong. Another great book by Frederick Bachman. And the final book that I read this month was Shield of Sparrows by Daphne Perry. This was the final book on my summer TBR, and I loved this book. We really ended off the summer with a bang with this book. I gave this 5 stars. I loved it that much. I flew through the story and these characters. You're in this fantasy world where our main character, she is one of 2 princesses in this royal family, but she is not the chosen one. She's the older sister, but the younger sister is the favorite. This other kingdom comes, and there's this arranged marriage situation happening where the younger sister is going to be married off to their prince and go and travel and basically be a spy for her father. But the prince arrives and he chooses the other sister. She is sent on this wild ride that she was not expecting. She was not trained for this. She was not raised from birth to be a spy. In this world, there are these monsters that are scattered about, very dangerous, and so she goes on this crazy journey of trying to survive in this very dangerous world after having no preparation for it. There's this other character called the Guardian, and he is superhuman, essentially. He's super powerful and strong and fast, everything, and he actually hunts these monsters. I loved their relationship because he did not pull his punches with her. He and her had the best banter. If you've ever read a romantasy book and you get aggravated by the female main character training and then all of a sudden being this amazing warrior after only like 1 chapter, fear not, that is not the case in this book. She does ask him to train her with a sword and knives, and you actually get to see her training and slowly get better and better. She never becomes this amazing soldier, but you get to see like a realistic depiction of this, of someone who has grown up having no training whatsoever and someone who's trying to get stronger just so that way they can protect themselves. I really loved that, and I loved seeing her grit and her determination to be stronger in this book. It had the slow burn that I always love in a romantasy, and I feel like just the pacing and the timing of everything was done so well. There's secrets she's trying to uncover, everything about this book, chef's kiss. And I fear I have a new book boyfriend after reading this book. Oh, that's heavy. And that is going to be it for my August wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this gave you some entertainment, if anything. You got to see me finish my summer TBR, which is really exciting. Whenever I can actually finish a seasonal TBR, that feels like a huge accomplishment. I'm really excited to now start reading my fall reads. I'm already in the middle of a fall book and I'm loving the fall vibes. I finally got all my fall decor up and out and I am just thriving. I also mastered making pumpkin cold foam. I did not think this day would ever come, but it finally came and I actually can save money now. Once again, thank you guys for watching and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.